What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jake. This is where I talk capes. And I did record my spoiler talk video, this video, right after I finished recording the video that I uploaded yesterday. And then as I was watching it back, I just forgot to mention a lot of things. So we're just starting again. We're just going to go from scratch, go from the beginning, and talk about all the big spoilers from The Penguin. What better place to start than with the big one, than the biggest one, the one that everyone is talking about. The show ends, the final shot of the show, it's one that I mentioned yesterday. Oz is in his new penthouse. He's dancing with his kind of love interest, I guess, is the escort who gives him an alibi in the first episode, dressed as his mum, which we'll get to. And he says, this is my city now, no one can take this from me. And then pans out the window, over the Gotham City skyline, bat signal. And oh my god, got very excited. Very, very excited. And there's a couple of reasons why. I mean, the Batman was mentioned briefly in the first episode in the news report. And I think that was great. I think that was the right decision. I think having this show hinge on having the Batman show up kind of takes away from Oz's story. And on top of that, if the show just ended with the Batman breaking down the window and just putting the work in on Oz, then why have we watched this show? It does make this show feel inconsequential. All this happened in a vacuum, but that's done now, and now we can move on to the next one. Having Oz be set up as a villain that has maybe been able to fly under the radar, maybe when we watch the movie we'll find out that the Batman Part 2 has actually already been happening and Bruce is dealing with other things, or maybe, Freeze is out there and Bruce has actually been dealing with that and hasn't had time to look at the gang war that's been going on. Maybe there's something like that. Obviously the big question is, why did Batman just ignore this gang war that was happening? Why did he ignore Crown Point being exploded again? But that happened right at the end of the show. That happened in the very last episode. And yeah, there was the gang war, and yeah, there was the runners being strung up by Sophia and Sal Maroni. But I'm sure the Batman Part 2 will give us an explanation, or at least allude to an explanation as to why he wasn't there. For me, I think it's an absolutely perfect way to wrap up the show, because it does remind us that this is part of a bigger story, and this is a thread in a growing and ever evolving and widening narrative. But we have been focused on this for this whole time, and that's good. That's what we should have been doing. I think it was a great way to end the show, a great sting, a great tease for this movie, which is a little bit under 2 years away from us at the moment, which is very upsetting. Let's talk about the next biggest thing that everyone is talking about. In one of the final moments of the show, when it looks like all has been won and everything's done, and Oz is celebrating with Victor. Oz turns to him and says, "Your family, Vic, you've grown into more than family, and family, it's a strength, but it's a weak spot." It's what led to Sophia kidnapping Oz's mum. It's what led to the whole end of that last episode, is that his main weak spot and his main blind spot is his family. And when it's revealed that after his mother was kidnapped and was in shock, and with her existing illnesses and the dementia and the, I think they said something like Parkinson's or something as well, Lewy body, I think is what it was. Everything that's happened to his mum, plus the trauma of everything that's just happened, and nearly having her finger cut off by Sophia, she is now in a vegetative state, unresponsive, living in Oz's penthouse, just in a hospital bed, looking out the window. Oz, after, the one thing that's kept him going, being his mother and being his family, being seen as his biggest weakness and his Achilles heel, and the one thing that he exploited on everyone else, that he exploited on Carmine, and he exploited on Sophia, and he exploited on the Maronis, when it was done to him, he realised he can't have that around anymore, and he murders Victor, strangles him to death, takes his wallet, gets rid of his ID, takes everything that can identify him, and leaves him there. And that was, to me, such an important part of this show, because the character of Victor ended one of one ways. I mean, we all thought Sophia was going to do it, but having it come from Oz is much more powerful, much more painful to the viewer, and just shows what a monster that he is. Because obviously we've watched this show and we want Oz to succeed. We're watching this show, Oz is the POV character, Oz is, for lack of a better term, the protagonist of this show. When we get to the Batman Part 2, we're not meant to want him to succeed. And in doing so, they killed everyone's favourite character. It was a tough watch. It was heartbreaking. And one thing that I really appreciated about this episode, and listen, maybe this is just me kind of reaching for something that's not there, grasping at straws, but earlier in the episode, Vic gives a big speech to all the underbosses, which inspires them to do spoiler number 3, which we'll get onto in a minute. And as he's given this big speech that, like I say, goes on to then inspire all the underbosses to turn on their various heads of their various crime families, it's one of the first scenes in the whole show where Victor isn't stuttering. He is loud and he's proud and he's steadfast and he's firm in his convictions, and the stutter isn't there. And for most of this scene, the stutter isn't there. And then when he starts to realise something's turning with Oz, it comes back, and it sat right there. I was sat on the other side of the couch that I usually sit for some reason, and I was in tears before it happened, because we know with Vic, he starts stuttering a little bit, and yeah, man, it was rough. And one thing that I really appreciate about Vic's arc is Vic's arc began with him trying to steal, the hubcaps off the tyres of Oz's Maserati, which is obviously how we discover Jason Todd, how Batman discovers Jason Todd. Vic was also orphaned, watched his parents die, watched their building get, fucking took out by that tidal wave when he was up on that roof. Orphaned and brought in to here. Also reminiscent of Dick Grayson. He watched his parents die when he was performing at the circus, was taken in by Batman. And Vic's such an obvious mirror for Robin. The fact that he's kind of got elements of, the two main Robins, he's got elements of both of their backstories tied into his, not like elements of them, but, sort of reflections and shades of them tied into his arc throughout the show. And the fact that we basically gave the Penguin his mirror of a Robin for him to kill him in cold blood because he wants the city all for him, and he knows that would be a sign of weakness, and that is something that people could expose. And it goes to show we're now left thinking, like I say, of Jason Todd and then of Robin, and we're left thinking, especially if we get a Robin in this universe, and Colin Farrell presumably will go on to be a big plot thread of the next 2 movies, as he revealed that he is signed on for a 3rd one, we'll always be left thinking of Victor and how much different it could have been had he just been found by someone different. We'll look at a Dick Grayson and we'll think of Victor. And I think Renzi Felice's arc in this show and performance in this show and everything he brought to the character of Victor Aguilar was absolutely fantastic. Now, I watched the Nando Cut video where he says, because the story starts and Oz doesn't have Victor and the story ends and Oz doesn't have Victor, is Victor's arc all that necessary? And I think it absolutely is. It is, to me, pretty much the single most integral part of this show. Victor is the glue that holds this show together for me. He is the emotional weight of this show. He is Oz's heart. He's not his moral compass, as we found out, but he's the thing that made Oz slightly less jaded and more ambitious, and Victor is the one who helped spur him on, and him seeing Victor succeed, and he sees this other kid with this, in his case it's speech impediment, and obviously in Oz's case it's his feet and his limp, and he sees this kid who reminds him of him, and he sees him wanting to get more, and it pushes him. And then at the end, when he has all this power, he's so greedy for it and so hungry for it and so unwilling to let go that he kills the only person who believed in him and the person who helped him get here the most. Victor's arc in this show isn't just necessary, but Victor's arc in this show is as important as Oz's arc in this show for me. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that Nando got on his channel and said that it's not an essential part of this show. Absolutely insane. As mentioned, Victor basically causes an uprising within the various crime families when he gives this speech when all of the various crime bosses come to get their drugs, get their bliss, and the drug lab has exploded and the ground's collapsed and they're going to look for Oz, and Victor saying, "You're all cowards. Oz is the one who brought you here. Oz is the one that wants to give you a chance to help him run the city, a chance that the Falcones or the Maronis would never give you. And now you just want to walk away because he's not here. These are all cowards." Link then comes up, hits him a dig, but then starts thinking. All of those underbosses start thinking they're actually never going to give me the shot because of family or tradition or this or that. Whereas Oz will. Oz wants to go around everyone and create this big basically this big criminal organisation under him and bringing everyone in and giving everyone a shot. And we see Link take out the head of the Triads, and we see everyone else take out the head of the various crime families, all to work under Oz. which gets rid of the gang warfare aspect and creates Oz as just the kingpin, essentially. It turns Oz into the Batman's Wilson Fisk. And I think it's a great idea because for me, I've been very vocal about it. I'm very sick of the Joker. I think, not that I'm sick of the Joker. No, I'm sick of the Joker. I think we don't need the Joker in this universe. Maybe not in the DCU at first. And that's nothing against Barry Keoghan, because I think he is going to be an absolutely brilliant Joker when we get to see more of it. But I just don't care or want to see more of it. I like what he did in that deleted scene from the first film, that he is the first supervillain and he's the one that basically marked this change in the tide in Gotham. And the Batman goes to him for information on things of that nature. If he then links in with Oz, who obviously sold out and is now working, with City Hall and things like that, because he goes to City Hall to speak with the councilman and he's looking to try and keep his rep clean. And I mean, the Batman is based off the Batman Year One comic, and in that comic, the Penguin is the mayor of Gotham. Maybe he sees the power that he's got now, but he's like, there's more power and more sustainable and legitimate power if I go find a way to go clean and run for mayor. He's the one that helped get the power back on in Crown Point. He's the one that ended the Falcons and the Maronis gang war. There's so many interesting things here. So I think having him as a sort of mirror to the Joker and almost an advisor to the Batman to help him understand what's going on in certain cases, I think that is a lot of fun. And I think that's perfect for what Oz has done here. And one thing that I love about this as well is there's an absolutely heartbreaking scene where we find out, obviously, that Oz locked his brothers in the storm drain in the tunnels under the city and they drowned. And we find out that he lied to his mum about it. And she found out, she knew. And Oz never once owned up. And now, as a grown man with his mother, an elderly woman, has still never told her. And when Sophia threatens to take his mother's finger, cut off his mother's finger, unless he tells her what he done, he still refuses. He'll do anything he can to shirk any responsibility or accountability and make sure that anyone else takes the fall but him. And having him basically say to the Batman, I'll give you this if you don't tell people about this shit that I'm doing, or you let me, just don't look over here while I'm doing what I'm not doing, kind of thing. I think that's a brilliant way to take this character. Of course, as well, the series ends with Sophia Gigante now back in Arkham. She receives a letter from her half-sister Selina Kyle. I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm a big fan of where that leads. Who the fuck gave Theo Rossi his job back? He quit Arkham. This is one thing. So Theo Rossi, his character, can't remember his name, quits Arkham when he saw the way they were treating the patients. And then Sophia gets out and he shows up at the mansion one day and he's like, hey, you're out. By the way, you're hot. Want to smash? Question mark. And then she goes back to Arkham and then he just shows back up. He's like, hey guys, can I have my job back? And I'm only going to hang out with Sophia all the time, I guess. And hand deliver her letters from Selina Kyle. Oh man. Theo Rossi was great in this show, to be fair. I just don't know how the fuck he got his job back. So she's back in Arkham. There is now the potential of something with Selina being set up there. Obviously, I've kind of covered all the big main spoilers, but where does this leave these characters going into the Batman Part 2? Well, most interestingly, it leaves Oz in a position where he might possibly be making a move for legitimate power and finding a way out of being a criminal and washing his hands of everything, cleaning his money, becoming a legitimate businessman, maybe running for mayor. It also shows us that Oz is willing to do anything to save himself. Anything he can to avoid the responsibility. He's just a truly detestable, evil character. And I hope we get to see more of that throughout this series. I do wish we maybe got to see more of what Arkham is. I know we got to see a little bit through Sophia's eyes in her episode, which is just an absolutely outstanding episode of television. But I wish we could have maybe got to see a little bit more of Arkham to kind of give us more of a taste and more of an idea of what's kind of going on there. Maybe they're still going to... There's like talks of an Arkham show set in the Epic Crime universe, or the Epic Crime saga, which I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I was never opposed to anything else being set in this show or in this universe. Give me the Officer Martinez sitcom, please. The two main characters who made it to the other side of this in Sophia and Oz are in incredibly interesting positions going into the Batman Part 2. Sophia is once again back in Arkham, but is in touch with Selina Kyle. Obviously, in Arkham, we have the possibility for all these different characters to be there. Maybe there's a Hugo Strange, the new head doctor of Arkham. Maybe there's Jonathan Crane in there. Although I have an idea for what would be a lot better for a Jonathan Crane. I know, obviously, we've just kind of seen that Sophia and everyone were segregated in a women's prison, or the women's wards in Arkham, and obviously Riddler and Joker were in their own spot away over there with the bigger collars. But there's the possibility to sort of world build, maybe with another show, maybe with other things, maybe other media. I mean, Paul Dano has had a brilliant run of Riddler comics that he put out, that he wrote. I've not finished them all, I've read a couple, but I've been told that the full run is fantastic. Maybe we do some comics set in there. Give me anything to tide me over before 2026. I'm just incredibly excited for where this goes and where the universe goes now, because everything has been set up so perfectly. Obviously, there is the criticism of what the fuck was Batman doing while a gang war took over, but I'm sure that'll be explained in the Batman Part 2. And this show takes place over the space of like 2 months, maybe. I know the first episode kicks off right away, pretty much, and it appears that maybe this second movie is going to pick off right there and then. But we need to wait and see. In terms of how excited I am for the Batman Part 2, somehow more excited than I was like a month ago, 2 months ago before the show came out. Somehow more excited. Every single episode built my hype more and more and more and more and more, and it never ever failed me. Like I said yesterday, this is the new gold standard for what comic book TV shows can be, and this is what they should be aiming for. An absolutely fantastic show. Everyone involved, I salute you. God bless this show. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the Penguin down below. Let me know if there were any big spoilery moments that I missed. Let me know if you thought any of these were good, any of these were bad, anything you think could have been done better, anything you think could have been improved. I did mention I had an idea for Scarecrow. Maybe that'll be a video soon, because I said yesterday I have like 4 Batman videos in a row lined up. It'll be 5, I think, because I did it'll be 5 because I did the fans casting. I'm a Batman channel now, baby. I guess. I'll talk about where I think this could lead in another video. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Jake. Thank you for letting me talk capes, and I'll see you soon.